And action.
So, at the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, big band music was starting to shift. Men and women who were involved in it were starting to improvise more. They were starting to get more syncopated. They were getting into stuff like swing and bebop. It was the birth of jazz. In the early 20th century, the early 1900s, another thing was brewing. Abroad, war was brewing. And a lot of the guys from the jazz scene in New Orleans, and as it was starting to spread in the South of the United States, were drafted to serve in World War I and World War II. Who picked up the mantle of jazz music? Women. Welcome to the Art of the Playlist Jazz Mamas episode. Beautiful women who are mothers of beautiful music. We're here to celebrate them today. And we're a music podcast that brings you curated playlists and the stories that motivated them. I'm Patty Pino, and I'm here with my two mama boyfriends, Christian Godbout and Robert LaFrance. Hi, guys.
Hey, Patty. Thank you for that warm intro. That was
Uh,
excellent.
and the history lesson, Patty. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Mm,
Yeah. I think it's going to be a very interesting episode today. A lot of history and a lot of different types of styles in jazz to cover today. I'm excited for it, as I always am.
Yeah, this is another one of those episodes where it was difficult to limit the playlist. Believe it or not, even though we were featuring the women of jazz, there are many, many women who have contributed to this art form. The music style is over 100 years old now in this country, and it's obviously a worldwide phenomenon. Jazz fans are hardcore fans. I would say that we're on the light side of jazz fans, meaning that we're not hardcore, but we all enjoy it to different levels, and we're going to share with you our playlist today. So Christian,
I
yes.
only have 13 songs on my list,
All
so
right.
Oh,
this is
okay.
for me. That's pretty low in
You're
terms of the number of songs.
It's better than 300, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true. Tis true. But you're a curve that maybe Chris and I are a little further down the path. So Christian, why don't you start us out and share your
Sure. I limited mine to only 20 songs, but they're all good songs. And I think it's a great playlist. And I kind of took a different view of it. I tried to do sort of like almost, I don't know, different genres or time frames. So I started out with Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan and Dinah Washington, all really cool. Um, Ella Fitzgerald's the first lady of jazz, right? And Billie Holiday, you talk about one of her biggest hits, "Strange Fruit," and it's one of the most important protest songs ever, and especially in its time, right? And so much history to talk about with the women of jazz and how it's been interpreted and the barriers the women faced, right? Even though the men were gone off fighting war, there were still a lot of barriers, especially when you consider most of the great ones were of color, right? So it's just it's really, it's all heartfelt, emotional, strong music. And I love it. I love it. And then I went into sort of some global jazz 'cause I didn't want to just limit it to the stuff we hear here in the States, right? Because Astrid Gilberto, for example, some Brazilian bossa nova and Edith Piaf. I love Edith. Like when we went to her gravesite, when we went to see Jim Morrison's gravesite in France, and came back listening to her quite a bit. And one that's a little bit more modern, but somewhat global, Stacey Kent. She's someone I first heard when I went to Quebec City. I went into a little shop and they were playing this great music. It was beautiful. It was Stacey Kent. I've been into her since, and it's great music. And she traveled the world touring all the time. She's in New York frequently, or up in Canada, or over in Europe. And then I wanted to get into some more modern. Stacey Kent kind of brought me that direction with like Nora Jones, Dana Kroll, and Laffy even. I don't know if you listen to Laffy, but she's great, and she has a great jazz kind of sound, and she's Gen Z. You got to check her out.
Okay.
She's fantastic. A friend of mine turned me on to her about a year ago, and I had never heard of her, but she's selling out the Garden, right? She's
Really?
just killing it. Oh yeah.
Where is
Hey,
she? Do you know where she's from by any chance?
she's American, but I don't know where from.
Okay. Just curious. So
Yeah, but definitely check her out. She's awesome. Uh, and then I closed it out with Etta James at last. I just thought it was a great vocal performance, a great way to close out some cool jazz. So yeah, that's my playlist in a nutshell. I'd welcome any thoughts or comments.
beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Christian, do you gravitate towards one particular style of jazz? Because what I found was that there's so many different versions of jazz, and like
So
there's
true.
upbeat jazz, there's like free jazz, there's big band kind of jazz. Like it could go all over the map. Do you gravitate towards anyone in particular?
No, that's a really good point. And I would say that I'm still a newbie in jazz, right? I've always liked the big band kind of jazz sound.
Yeah,
And I love Dave Brubeck and Coltrane and those guys. So I don't know if I'm the right guy to answer it, but I will say I don't like that freeform jazz where everybody's playing their own song all at once. To me, I'm not there yet. Maybe I'll get there someday, but right now it's just like kids banging on a bucket to me. I don't know what it is.
Well, I definitely think it's an advanced music styling, and certain people really attach themselves to it. To other
Absolutely.
it's more of an acquired taste. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
as
A
you
couple of times.
grow, you'll see if it'll happen.
Exactly. Right.
I
I'm excited that I've discovered jazz because it's like it's opened up a whole new world to me. So, imagine if you just heard rock and roll for the first time, you'd be like, oh my God, this is incredible.
yeah,
So it's cool.
I too have experienced what you've experienced, where I'd be traveling and in a cafe or a bar or something and heard music, and most often it was jazz. It's really a universal form of music that you hear all over the world. Rob and Chris, you both made good points about how jazz bleeds into all different genres of music as well. So jazz influences pop, jazz influences rock, jazz influences
Blues.
reggae,
Yeah.
blues. Yeah, blues and jazz are really married.
I'm close.
Um, it influences, shoot, I lost my bubble there. Oh,
Sorry.
bossa,
Oh, bossa nova. Yeah.
yeah, jazz and bossa are hand in hand as well. So, yeah, it's and swing and big band, like you were talking about too, Rob. Yeah, so I think a good voice is important to good jazz as well, and whether that voice be the vocal stylings of somebody, or the voice of the trumpet, or the voice of the saxophone, or the voice of the bass or guitar, there seems to always be like some sort of through line, whether you're listening to instrumental jazz or vocal jazz, where this where there's a sound of a voice of either the vocal instrument or a traditional instrument. So
yeah, Patty. I think that one of the commonalities that I heard in jazz was there's a lot of virtuoso performers, whether it be voice or instrument, in jazz. So because of that, the music is often really interesting and challenging in a lot of ways because you have the best people in the world playing it. So I find it to be really interesting from that perspective as well.
I agree. It's not like rock where sometimes it's just somebody up there playing power chords, right? You don't hear
Right.
a lot of that in jazz. Not that there's anything wrong with power chords. There's a great place for them, but it's just, jazz is a little more intricate, I think.
it's intricate and more academic in terms of the way it comes across. Um, but yeah, don't don't put shade on those people.
Oh, I'm not. I love it. I'm just saying it's different. That's all.
Correct, definitely different. Okay.
Yeah. Tell us about your playlist.
All right, cool. My playlist opens, since we're doing a tribute to women in jazz, with the first all-female mixed race international jazz band from the 1920s and 30s. They're called the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, and I showcase a song called Central Avenue Boogie. So it's a big band. It was in New Orleans. It was around or during the war, when guys are coming back, when women were, moving into this space. And it's renowned because it was a groundbreaking group in that it was all instrumental. Excuse me, all women doing all the instruments and the vocalization. So that's where my playlist starts. And then I want to talk a little bit about, and I move through a lot of things that you talked about, Christian, a lot of the classic artists, a lot of the international artists, contemporary stuff, Rosemary Clooney, Aretha Franklin, Diana Washington, Doris Day, Nancy Wilson. There's a lot of folks there. I had an opportunity to see, who did I see? Um, Diana Krall. She had come around to Fairfield. I had a chance to see her live, which was amazing. But I fell in love with jazz in two ways. It came into my world through women. The first time I fell in love with jazz was in 1979 when I was in middle school. When I was a kid, my dad let me watch Saturday Night Live. That was a thing that he let me stay up and watch with him. It was like a special thing. I really liked comedy and he knew it and he let me stay up and watch it. And the first time I heard like a cool jazz riff is someone I've talked about on the podcast before, Rickie Lee Jones.
Oh,
Came
yeah.
out with her self-titled album in 79 and she sang Chucky's in Love and Coolsville on that show and I immediately fell in love with that album. I showcase a different song off that album, and if I can find it on my playlist, I'll tell you guys. Easy Money, which I think is more of a groove. Um, it's amazing to me. It starts with a stand-up bass. There's a section of my playlist where about 8 songs start with stand-up bass or guitar at the
I
beginning.
love that.
There's a certain pattern to the way jazz tunes unfold, and the strings are an important piece of it. The piano is an important piece of it, and the horns are big too. So, and even sometimes it's a tune will start out just with a rhythm, like a drum beat as opposed to the bass rhythm. So it's cool to explore some of this stuff because there are certain styles that it moves through. So Rickie Lee Jones let me fall in love with jazz. The second time I fell in love with jazz is I was going through the bins at an old record store in New Haven that doesn't exist anymore, but it was a classic place called Cutler's.
Colors. Yeah.
And I was in college and I was poor and they had a discount bin of cassettes and I had a cassette player in the car and I was looking through the cassettes and I found a cassette called Ladies of Jazz. Unfortunately, that album doesn't exist anymore, but that album showcased the songs of Sarah Vaughan, Carmen McRae, and Ella Fitzgerald. And I listened to that cassette over and over and over again. I fell in love with songs like Imagination, I'm Beginning to See the Light, jazz standards, most of them on that album, and 3 distinct and classic voices in the jazz genre. What happened to that album was in the late 90s, someone took that set of music and created actually a larger 3 CD collection from those ladies. Unfortunately, because there was a lot of redundancy in the song titles, they didn't pick, for example, I'm Beginning to See the Light. I liked Sarah Vaughan's version, but the only version on that is by Ella Fitzgerald. So this is my sad moment saying, as the world goes digital, we're starting to lose some of the stuff that was out there. I could not find a version of I'm Beginning to See the Light by Sarah Vaughan. I know it exists because I used to listen to it, but it's not there anymore.
And Patty, I love that that's like a random record store find in the bargain bin of a record store. You don't get that opportunity anymore because you're just streaming everything. So to go into a record store and come out with something that you don't really know much about but looked interesting from the title or from the cover art or something like that, that rarely happens these days. But I think it's a really underappreciated discovery vehicle for new music.
Completely agree. And Jeff and I still haunt, thrift stores and record stores and flea markets and stuff, and we try to do things we call blind buys so that we can try to discover new music. And you got to give yourself a budget. You don't want to spend a ton of money on something you don't know anything about. But it is really fun to discover new music that way. Record shows is a good way to do that as well. Uh,
Sure. Yeah.
so, so those were like my 2 uh big moments of jazz in my life. And since that time, it's definitely evolved. I've gotten into a lot of different stuff. Like I said, all different kinds of sound, contemporary, old and new. But if you're hearing me like chill out, doing work, folding laundry, hanging out, most of the time I'm listening to jazz. It's just my like go-to music for mellow times.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's my playlist.
I
All
didn't
Very
right.
realize it
nice.
was such a major part of your life. That's really cool.
Thanks. Actually, it's bled into a lot of my playlists, and I'm sure there'll be more as time goes on. So, how about you, Rob? What did you want to share with us?
Yeah, I love jazz. Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Gabrielle Mervine, even newer stuff. We even talked about that Casa overall on one of our recent episodes, the cover songs episode. So I love it all. But what I realized when I was going through that list is that all those artists have one thing in common: a Y chromosome.
Ah, interessante.
So how did I end up with a jazz collection that has no females? I didn't plan it that way. And I wasn't out there like, we need more dudes in this playlist, but like it just happened. And so I figured this was a good opportunity to fix it. So this podcast comes at a good time because it allowed me to not only explore uh different females in jazz, but also different styles of jazz, and that's what I ended up selecting. So I went and found a bunch of women that are in all different styles, some legacy, some newer artists, and just see what's out there. And I spent a lot of time on blogs and things like that, just perusing newsletters and magazine articles, and I found a few things. Like I said, I found about 13 songs. So I put a playlist together of that. And I started with um, I Put a Spell on You by Nina Simone.
Beautiful.
1965. We've talked about this song before, the hip hop episode, when we covered, I specifically mentioned Kick in the Door by Notorious B.I.G. That track samples the original version of I Put a Spell on You by Screaming Jay Hawkins.
Oh,
Um, so
Screaming Jay.
Screaming Jay. Uh, and Nina Simone takes that song somewhere completely different than he did. And I actually rediscovered this version, the Nina Simone version, on Owen Kutz's Old School Friday. He does an Instagram post. He's a DJ and a producer in the UK, and he does this Old School Friday every Friday on Instagram. And he focuses on one particular artist and song, and that was I heard that on that episode of Owen Kutz's Old School Friday. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. But he has a rule, and that's simple. If you find something on his Instagram posts, you have to pass it off as your own. So you're not allowed to say where you got it. You're not allowed to say it was from him. So technically, I probably shouldn't even be telling you this,
yes.
but seriously, go follow him. Just don't tell him I sent you.
Maybe we'll link to him in the show notes.
Yeah, totally should. Yeah, that would be cool.
Okay.
One of the other songs that I focused on was Etta James. So in our Saw It Live episode, we talked about another Etta James song called Something's Got a Hold on Me. And that song made it as a sample into the song Levels by Avicii. So both of the songs are bluesy and soulful. This song is a little more slower in terms of pace. And this is I'd Rather Go Blind, 1967. So it's really one of the kind of like
Love that song.
smoky. Oh yeah, you know that song. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I
Great song.
yeah,
Classic.
yeah. And I don't even know if it really counts as jazz. I mean, it's Apple Music says, like, if you click on the genre, it says it's blues. But I think, like we were saying, it's a very subtle distinction between those genres, jazz, blues. Yeah. So I think, but the feeling is very jazz to me. Like, it's restrained, but it's full of great vocals and great instrumentalists. So it fits the jazz genre, in my opinion. The next song I wanted to talk about is Corinne Bailey Rae. Do you guys know Corinne?
Beautiful
Mm,
voice.
I don't know.
Okay. So there's a song called Love Is Mine by Corinne Bailey Rae, which came out in 2007. And the only reason I know it, because I wasn't really clued into jazz, that's more in kind of the R&B flavor. But I did a house remix of that track years ago, and for some reason, that song was actually released on Savoy Jazz label. So I don't even know if I'm talking about like a house song that I remixed that ended up on a jazz label. So like the genres are all over the place, but my remix is very house oriented, but it's a neo soul artist, so you can't really pigeonhole jazz at all. So which I kind of like. So I think that you can even turn it into a house record. It still sounds great because of that the amazing performances on the record. So that was one of the songs I wanted to talk about. And then I also wanted to get more modern. And so I really wanted to find something that was like, in the 2020s. So I found Nubia Garcia. Going through all my blogs and stuff. I found something that was much more present. She has a song called Pace, came out in 2020. She's a tenor sax player, and this song is off of her album called Source. And what I like about it is Apple Music, in their description of the album, calls it an exploration into cumbia, calypso, dub, and soul. So it's jazz, but it has influences from all of those other genres. And have a track that's pure cumbia, which is like a dance rhythm out of Colombia that is called La Cumbia. So it's a cool song on that album, but I like the fact that she has all these different influences in her music. It makes a very like the whole album is really great to listen to because it's a journey in itself. So it pulls from all different cultures, all different sounds. I really like that aspect of this. So listen to the Source is the album because the whole album is fantastic. My next track is pure cumbia. So this is an 8-minute free jazz jam. So, Christian, you may not like it, but it climaxes in the middle with a bunch of like cymbal crashes and super fast bass, almost like an atonal sax solo. So, but then it kind of slows to a crawl in the middle and then it ends back where it started. So it's a real journey, which is something I really love about that song. So check that one out. And the other song I want to talk about was um, the artist called Nala Sinefro. So this is like a more spacey, atmospheric song. So we're gonna slow this way down for a second. The song is called Space 1.8.
That sounds like a Rob LaFrance kind of
Yeah,
song.
it's not from Iceland, but we'll get through it. Um,
Definitely want to check this out.
Yeah, so this is a cool song. She plays harp and synthesizers. It came out in 2021. This is ambient. It's almost meditative. So Patty, you might like it, but it's more about atmosphere than melody, and it builds up like slowly, layer by layer, and it doesn't really have like a big moment. It's just about the vibe of the track overall. So I really love that track. That's the last song on my playlist because it closes out nicely. But what I found was that when you really step back and do some investigation, it's wild about how all these different sounds can all qualify as jazz or at least kind of brush up against it, right? So they're jazz adjacent. So you got vocal records like that classy, dirty jazz sound. Like I envision you being in like an old nightclub with the smoke, lofting from the crowd, and then you've got like these global rhythms. You've got ambient textures. And even stuff that ends up on the dance floor, it's all kind of jazz. So I love that jazz can be so different, and that's really what makes it interesting to me.
That's an interesting point. I was listening to I love how you talked about how everything blends together. We all touched upon that. You mentioned some other genres, soul and stuff like that too, which is cool in the ambient stuff. I was listening to an interview with Lucinda Williams earlier this week, and she was bemoaning the fact that there are any categories for music. She thinks that if you're a musician, the artistry is creating music. And the genres in her mind were invented by the industry, the record companies, the radio stations, the marketing people. She struggled because when she would create something, they would say, well, it's not country enough, or well, it's not bluesy enough, or well, it's not pop. We can't market this. It doesn't fit into a category. And she thinks that that's really an unfortunate loss for the music industry. So when we're talking about jazz, we got bluesy jazz, we got soulful jazz, we got jazzy blues, we got rock and jazz, like it just goes. And I think all of us are music appreciation folks. And I love Rob, that you went from um the improvisational stuff and Christian went all the way to the classic stuff. You had some classic stuff as well. There's a piece of this that I neglected to mention that I really love and part of my love of jazz, and that's scat singing. In our Hip Hop Hooray episode a few weeks ago, I spoke about how I'm a word person and I love that rappers and hip hop artists can spit. I also love scat. The idea of using your voice as a true instrument, the words don't matter. It's just the sounds that move the music forward and get you into a vibe. So I have the last part of my list where I highlight Sarah Vaughan and Carmen McRae and Ella Fitzgerald. I picked specifically scat songs for that. And that moves into a little of the improv space too, and the syncopation stuff.
So listen, I don't really like to listen to your playlists. I like to listen to mine because mine are the best. But
I don't
in
know.
this case,
I was talking to your mom the other day, and she told me she likes my playlist better than yours.
wait, you can't bring in my mom into this conversation.
I think I just did.
You can't do that. That's off limits. No, but what I was saying is like this is I'm excited to listen to your playlist because I'm new to jazz and I want to understand more of it. And you guys are going to show me a different flavor of jazz that I didn't find on my own. And it's already been recommended, so I know it's going to be quality stuff. So I'm excited to listen to your playlist for once.
Oh, thank you for lowering yourself to our level, Rob.
Yes, we are so appreciative.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, this has been quite an episode. Any other thoughts, gentlemen?
No, I think this was great. I think it was very it was fun as always, and I like Rob. Enjoyed the different types of music, and I look forward to hearing your playlist. Because, Rob, you picked songs I would have never picked. Nayla Sinafro, is that how you pronounce it? I was
Yeah,
just looking
you're
her up while you
asking
were
me.
talking. Yeah, and I'm like, she categorizes, or they categorize her as Belgian Caribbean music. I'm like, that's an interesting genre, and that's one of the great things about jazz is that you can pull it from two different random places and bring something together that's amazing.
Yes, and I think that all of us should listen to each other's because we're all going to learn from it.
Agreed.
I also wanted to point out that Samara Joy, who's on my playlist, she won Best New Artist at the Grammys in 2023, and she's a jazz singer. She's young. And that was a huge thing, not only for jazz, but for the industry in general, that a younger person coming up would win Best New Artist in the
Well,
jazz.
check out Lofty that I was talking about because it's very young. My friend Mike Weinstein, shout out to Mike. He turned me on to her, and she's fantastic. So it's great to see this Gen Z is still carrying it. Right? It'll just continue.
Yeah, amazing. Cool. I wish I could scat us out of this episode. I'll just
Try it,
Give it
Patty.
a
Try
shot,
it.
Patty. You can do it.
no, we're not going free form here. I'm just going to say thank you, gentlemen, for showcasing the women of jazz. Thank you to all those jazz mamas and papas who are sharing stuff with us in terms of their artistry. Thank you for all those mamas out there who are enjoying the music of life. We're here every week. We hope that you like and subscribe, follow us on social media, listen to our playlists. Most importantly, in this moment, tell your friends because we want to grow this thing. It'll be much more fun, and we're going to start having guests in the future as well. So start thinking about the playlists that you want to share. Uh, Feel free to post your favorite jazz women that you want to make sure we know about. And remember one important thing: trust us and not the algorithm. Thank you.